Okay. All right, we're recording.
Hey, all right, then here we go then. Yeah, so I just wanted to say a big shout out for obviously to yourself to allow me to come here today to have a bit of a chat. But my reason for wanting to do this is obviously here in the UK, I practice as a life coach, and I like sort of working with people, and I just love motivation. And obviously, as I just said to you before you press record, I got woke up one night and I saw your video, and it was all to do with like sort of breathing and things like that, and it sent you back to sleep. So from that, I was just quite intrigued to sort of find out a bit more about you. But I noticed that you do quite a lot of work with dreams, and
Yeah.
I was just like I said, I've never come across it before, and it may be popular here in the UK, but I was just wanting to sort of find out a bit more information about that.
Yeah. What did you just say about the UK? It's not as popular in the UK?
I've never heard of it. It could be
Oh,
here, it could be, but it's just something I've never actually come across myself. So again, I'm just being a bit of a nosy Englishman. I just wanted to find out a bit more about it in terms of what you do.
for sure. Well, I'll say I never expected that I would be like as into dreams as I am, and especially
Yeah.
offering it professionally with other people. I just kind of found the back door into it. I just like right around when I graduated college, so I was 21, I just started
Yeah.
having these crazy dreams. And I
Wow. Okay.
started, yeah, just recording them. I didn't, have any like training or guidance. I just started dream journaling, and then they just started coming like more and more profoundly, like these dreams where like all these orcas were talking to me and like giving me my life
Wow.
purpose, and like almost like messages from like a higher power, just like stuff that I woke up and was like, wow. And so I listened to it. I started like hearing their messages and doing the things that they awoke me to do or put
Yeah. Yeah.
together in my life. And then boom, just like all this alignment, all this synchronicity, all this abundance, all this growth, all
Yeah.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
this healing, this interpersonal, like I have a lot of trauma in my life. And so it was doing all this trauma work. So I
Okay.
just
Okay. Yeah.
kept pursuing it and have done lots of trainings in it now and read all kinds of books and studied it from a lot of different angles. And I just feel like dreams are kind of like when you said the UK, you're not really aware of it. I think that's part of our Western European culture. We've sort of diminished dreams
Sure. Sure.
as like nonsensical because science still doesn't understand it fully. They've done all these
Yeah.
studies. There's still not a big main consensus on what dreams are. They
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
fit the tools necessarily or the framework that science can measure them and repeat the results and all that. They're like much bigger than that. So I feel like our culture is sort of suffering from like a dream, like dream deprivation. And that comes
Sure.
from work with Dr. Leslie Ellis, one of my mentors, where she's like, this is like a public health issue,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we've been so disconnected from our dreams. So I feel like this passion, this part of my calling to really help people get connected
Yeah.
to dreams.
But do you think? Do you think? Do you want me like saying to you? Like, do you think that's because we're so busy? Do in terms of sort of like our lives? Do you think it's just because like we're so like as humans now, isn't it? We're just so busy all the time. So we're rushing around. We're kind of like if you're not standing still, you're going to a gym. You're doing something, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? But do you think that plays a part in it, or do you think it's just literally a fact of maybe a little bit of ignorance in terms of actually wanting to believe that there is something in terms of a linkage to our dreams?
I think both for sure. And it depends on who you ask, like off the street, like, hey, what do you think about dreams?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people would be like, I don't dream. And science studies prove that every single one of us dream every single night.
Yeah,
And if you're not hitting that deep REM state during sleep, then
yeah,
they've done these studies where if you cut off the dreaming part of your sleep, you will enter like a full-blown psychosis within 3 to 4 days.
wow,
So it's like
wow,
we need our dreams that much that like it regulates all kinds of things to our body and minds.
yeah,
And when you cut off their ability to enter REM state, they will go
yeah,
psychotic.
yeah,
So it's like water. It's like we can only last a few days without water, or then even more than food. We can go longer without food or proper shelter or all these other things, and we can incur massive amounts of trauma or tragedy, you know, and war, but it's going to take a lot longer to damage someone that much to go to psychosis. But you cut off dreams, people will go to a psychosis. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we dream every single night, but people just don't remember. And that's part of what you were saying with the busyness. Like,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
so like, we wake up, we check our phones, we go to our to-do list, we got our alarm, we're running late, we're stressed. And then it's just like a different mode of consciousness. So we just go like, bloop, and then we forget about all of that.
Yeah.
And then there are other people that, yeah, like they're so bizarre. They're full of so many taboo plot lines, like incest and murder. And
yeah. I was going to say,
so
I've definitely done something like that in my dreams.
Yeah, people are like, nope, dreams are just whack jobs. And no, I ain't touching that.
It's interesting. It's interesting though, Annalie. It's just that because I've been coaching now for like 2 years, and like I said, and for me, like I don't believe in magic tricks. So sorry, like I've there's. I think for me, kind of like motivation is such a powerful tool, and I think like language and words are so powerful. And a few years ago, I actually went to an NLP practitioner because I found that when I was getting really, really heightened or stressed or something, I would go to sleep and there would always be two people in my dreams. And cut a long story short, a bit like what you were saying, in terms of trauma, when I was a lot younger as a child, I was bullied for like many years. And I kind of like just grew up, kind of forgot about it. You know, you just get on with your life. But every time from day dot that I can remember, I would always see these two people again in my dreams when I was feeling anxious or like I said, stressed. And I was just sat there one day and I thought, you know what, enough's enough. Because I used to find that when they used to enter my dreams, I would then get up the next day and then I would start thinking about something that happened maybe 20, 25 years ago. But there was no real reason while I was conscious to be thinking about it. But I found it kind of put me in a negative mood. So although I've gone from kind of like quite a stress situation, I'm now starting to feel a bit lower mood. So I went to this guy and he kind of like did something to my mind. He did something, but he turned it around in such a way that actually these people they're not important. They're just people. And now when I go to bed, I don't see them. I don't ever see them anymore in my dreams. So even if I'm feeling a bit stressed or agitated, they're no longer there. And it's always baffled me. I couldn't understand what the linkage was in terms of why would those two people just appear in my dreams.
Wow. And they were specifically some of your main aggressor, bullier?
Yeah. It was interesting. Yeah, literally. It was like a bit like a haunting demon, I suppose, really. It's quite a strong word to say, but it was. And that's what the presence always felt like. It always felt like there was some sort of linkage.
For sure.
You know, and like I said, it took me years just to even think about it. And one day I just thought, you know what, enough's enough. You know, I'm feeling stressed, but I don't need to connect to that part of my life anymore. But yeah, they would always appear.
Interesting. I think that's super cool that the NLP, the neuro-linguistic programming, worked in a way that it penetrated your psyche so deeply that it helped clear that part of the trauma your psyche was trying to clear to process. So that's really cool. I'm going to look into that more with the tools that they use and how that relates to doing deep dream work.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, obviously from that point, that's when I got into sort of NLP training, but I've kind of moved away from that in terms of, like I said, again, for me, like I like to work with people. It's almost like if you went to a gym today and you employed a personal trainer, I kind of want to be your mental health trainer. You know, I want to like really, really sort of like push you mentally, you know, through motivation. But when that guy did that NLP on me, and he did his NLP, we went in, and it was kind of like a light hypnosis. But yeah, I actually saw him. I actually saw these guys again, you know, when I was going into my hypnosis, and it was amazing. But I started doing a bit of Patrick Swayze. I was just sort of like dancing around him, and I was like, oh yeah.
That's so cool.
But they've never come back. They never come back.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask a little further? And
yeah, sure. Yeah,
as much personally you feel comfortable with. I'm curious, like what that session looked like. Like, what were some of the questions? Like, I hear there was
So basically, what he did was, it was like a radio. So he got me to imagine kind of like an old radio playing, and then he started to get it to play louder. So if you imagine, like, I don't know, I'm going back to maybe like World War II when they were using sort of radio as propaganda. You know, it was getting louder and louder and louder and louder. And it was just like that. So basically, as I was sort of sinking down and I was going down into like this sort of light hypnosis, the words were getting louder and louder and louder, and then he'd stop, and then he'd start again, and it was just like someone was winding up this radio, and the noise was just getting louder and louder, and all he kept repeating was that basically these people are no more part of your life, they're no more, and it was getting faster and faster and faster and faster, and then he'd switch it, and then he started talking positive words, positive, positive, positive. Yeah, so in the end, I think it was just like it was almost like electricity, and it was just zapping your mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Honestly, it was really good.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I'm trying to like relate that to the tools of dreamwork that I use. And well, one of them, there's all kinds of research with the liminal state, like the hypnagogic state, like with your brain waves, and sort of getting in that place just really opens up perception and abstract out of the box thinking. You can break up those stress patterns. So it's like he got you into that place. And when I do dream work, I tell people to expect it to feel kind of meditative. And just like the tools of meditation, why those work so effectively is because you get to this hypnagogic, deeply present and attuned place to then start inserting these tools and changing those patterns. And when I do nightmare work, and how I've been trained is the first thing we do, you know, the bully figures, obviously they were those two exact characters. And whether they took another form, maybe like a broken building or a tidal wave or whatever, the first thing we do is stop. You put a boundary. You disidentify from being pulled into their drama. And so we always spend lots of time like doing inner resourcing or saying, you know, stop. And then we add the conditioning to the other more productive behavior. So it looks similar to exactly the process you went through too with
it was really interesting.
Good stuff.
Honestly, you know, like I said, I mean, it was just so powerful, and when I came out of it, I just felt so numb, and obviously, like I said, my journey from that point sort of took a massive turn, like in terms of what I went there for to try to solve. It kind of then gave me this sort of aspirations to actually consider, do you know what, I want to do this myself, you know. So although it was a negative that I was trying to overcome, it then served to become a massitive positive, you know, like on a conscious level. So like I said, no, honestly, it was fantastic. I recommend it to anyone. I do it again right now, honestly. It's but it was interesting as well. Sorry, I do apologise. I'm a chatterbox. But interestingly enough as well, though, is do you do anything to do like with dreams in terms of sort of like getting back in touch with like your inner child, or is that something that, you know, is that?
Absolutely. Doing inner child work is just a huge part of the psychotherapy realm in general. And dreams will connect you to so many aspects of your inner child, and reconnecting and becoming the parent or the mentor for your inner child, being the inner child who also then teaches your parents, you know, like you connect all the different stages of development through dreams, whether that's child or adolescent or adult or elder. So that's what's cool about dreams too, is they're not fixed on like one aspect of your life, and dreams always have like past, present, and future.
Oh, nice.
One dream, which is cool.
Wow. Well, see, are you saying like in terms of sort of like when you introduce what you do in terms of like the dreams and stuff like that? So are you saying, like I said, that you can actually sort of take control of your dreams in terms, I don't know, let's say for instance tonight, if I wanted to sort of really program myself to go to sleep are you saying then that we can actually still keep sort of working on ourselves during our dreams as well then?
Absolutely. There's this whole other aspect, like lucid dreaming. Are you familiar with?
I've heard of the phrase. I've heard of the
lucid dreaming is huge, and I have a little bit of a reservation with that because I find a lot of people do it just for the entertainment value. And it's like, wow, I'm going to use these dreams kind of like this alternate reality where I can fly, where I can have sex with who I want, where I can blah blah blah, right? And yet the tools of lucid dreaming, if you're able to become more lucid in a dream, like you could do inception on yourself. You do your own NLP during the dream. You really practice those skills to become lucid. You could do that deeper work right then and there in the dream, but
Wow.
takes a lot of dedication and commitment for
Sure.
people to be lucid. And most people don't like have the time or want to do that. So the way I
Yeah.
work is, doesn't matter if you're lucid or not in the dream, whatever happened in the dream is fine. And we're going to work with it out loud, like in your waking life, and we can still do just as effective work.
Fantastic. Oh
Yeah.
my God, this sounds amazing. Like, honestly, yeah, this sounds amazing. Yeah. Well, so like, so can you, when you're working with your clients then, in terms of sort of like, you know, coaching and stuff like that, then, can, are you using the dreams then as a motivational tool, or you know, what's sort of like your ways of sort of dealing with your dreams to sort of help people then?
Okay, motivation. Let me think about that word specifically, because it sounds like that's like a key tool that you have, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that's a really great question. Actually, I'm happy you asked that. It gives me something fruitful to think about. But well, answer that now is I have a much more detached perspective from dreams, because
Yeah,
I'm in route to licensure as a marriage family therapist, as a psychotherapist. So
yeah.
I deal with like really deep and complex like pathologies
Sure,
of
sure, yeah.
like hurt and traumas and
Yeah,
stuff. And
yeah,
so I think dreams are really helpful because you can detach from like, you know, having an expectation on where it'll go or what needs to
yeah,
happen. Because a lot of times those come from like your ego thinking mind, your conscious rational
yeah,
mind, which is only like one part of the one half of your brain, when
yeah,
dreams have a much more like global, coherent and abstract like way of being. So
yeah,
if I sit back and I do not force an outcome or directionality on the dream, I let the dream give the medicine. I help them come into contact
wow,
with all the medicinal parts of the dream and what the dream has to teach the dreamer. Then there's just like, I think the best way to describe this is like ayahuasca, which we can talk about in a second if you want, but the pathways to healing and what the dream teaches is always so much more than I could have ever known or expected from
mm,
my conscious standpoint. It's
yeah,
always a surprise. It always takes you where you didn't think it was going to go, and it always offers from the inside of the dream its own pathway out, its own healing.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So whether that looks like, okay, the person needs to cry for the next 5 hours straight, or what maybe they need to go and lay those boundaries with their partner or their boss, or maybe they
yeah,
need to really get disciplined with this other self-care routine or whatever, like
sure,
can look so many different ways. And I think the way that the dream opens you up and taps you into this like global coherence of self is it takes away the barriers to, like, you know, if you're struggling to feel motivated, it's like you're
yeah,
hitting barriers. Dreams go like underneath that and just like
yeah,
clear the barriers
yeah,
so
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
things can just happen, things can just unfold, you can just go in the direction you need to go based off
yeah.
the context of where you're at energetically or mentally or spiritually. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, no, definitely not. But it just seems like, again, like I said, you know, obviously, you know, I'm here collaborating with you because obviously, like I said, I'm a life coach, and it's just really interesting. Like I said, and this was, like I said, I'm a firm believer that things just jump out. And again, like I said, forgive me for saying, but I did wake up that night. Like I said, I was having a sleepless night. I wasn't dreaming, but so, you know, and I just checked my Instagram, and there you were, and it was just kind of, oh wow, this feels amazing. And hence the reason why I sort of sent you a message. And again, it's just, yeah, like I said, I think it's amazing. And I think, again, it just sort of shows that talking to you, there's so much more of an extension about kind of like how we can help people, you know, in terms of, and it's just, yeah, honestly, it's great. It's great listening to you. Yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, there's a whole thank you for your affirmations, and I'm happy to be sharing with you right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a whole nother like rabbit hole of like theory and really well studied, formulated reasons why I have an approach of like with motivation. So since you asked this, I'm thinking of a lot of things. I
Yeah.
think there could be a lot of toxicity in motivation if we
Yeah,
don't understand like the paradigm that it's coming from. So for
yeah,
example, right now a lot of the anti-racist work going on is like, what is the standards of the American dream, and all of these capitalistic goals, and all of these, you know, patriarchal political, what, like all these things. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
we have to really think like, well, why do we think that's important? Why do we value that? Is that coming from any sort of white supremacist stance that
yeah,
has
yeah,
pushed,
fair point.
pushed science and social justices in a way that only promotes our medical model or psychological model or our
Yeah.
fitness model? And so I think with dreams is really cool is dreams are like apolitical. They do
It's
not,
neutral. It's
yes,
neutral.
they don't have an agenda that fits any of these biases. So
Yeah.
I think that's a way to like kind of play it safe too, because I know some coaches who've really pushed, like even in the yoga, the fitness, like a wellness coach who pushed people in really harmful directions because they had this idea of goals and motivation that were really unhealthy and
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
push
I think,
toxic standards and sort of patriarchal values, and you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. Because it's interesting again, is what I said, and again when I sort of like talk about dreams and stuff like that, and I actually found myself about a couple of years ago, and kind of like when I kind of like felt like this release was coming out. I don't know. I'm a big believer in you. Everybody's got a calling. Everybody's got a purpose. I think the two most important things that is ever going to happen to somebody in their lifetime is one, being born, and then finding out what your purpose is to be on this planet. And I felt like when I was about 38, 39, yeah, boom, there you go. The light bulb's gone off. This is what I need to be doing. And from that moment, I went to sleep one night and I had this dream that I was going to buy a little cottage in the countryside, and I walked through this cottage and I can still see it very clearly where the living room is, what's upstairs. I've got an old bed, my little dog, he's next door, and I even went into the garden, but I keep seeing it all the time in my dreams. So like now I'm thinking to myself, like, is that me manifesting something, or is my dream showing me something? I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I would love to just do a dreamwork session with you outside of here. Just so
Yeah, yeah,
you know, maybe we do some trade or something, whatever your specialties are as well. Just,
yeah.
I think it's one of those things where I hear you, and a lot of people will ask me stuff like that, and it's like, we don't know until we do the dream work.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
which is fun because it's like, just wait for the surprise. Like it's always going to be something like, wow, something
yeah, yeah,
profound, like an awareness, a connection, a shift. But we don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
until we do the dream work.
I suppose it's like a shift of paradigm, isn't it? In terms, like I said, it's almost like I said, you know, that again, like it says, isn't it? I mean, you're going to tell me whether I'm right or wrong, but I've always a believer that that apparently when we're dreaming, we've got like an umbilical cord attached to us. So I always thought that when we're dreaming, we're actually leaving our body, but we're attached on this cord. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but we're actually, yeah, we go like into a dream world.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, this this is where, as woo-woo as people may think I am up front, because I represent dreams and sort of holistic
Yeah,
healing, I'm always
yeah,
like, yo, I am actually extremely into science and research and evidence-based stuff, and I happen to think a little freely with those tools. But
yeah,
this is one of those things where it's a really fine line, and it's still a controversial thing in the dreaming community, where some people have like just been so adamant to my face, like almost shaking me, like, I leave my body every time I dream, I swear, and you're not going to tell me,
oh, yeah, yeah,
you're not
yeah,
going to tell me otherwise. And I'm like, all right, whatever, like that's what you believe. And on the other hand, there is so much, like, what happens to your body scientifically when you enter into REM sleep, you go into
yeah,
paralysis, and
yeah,
so your whole body shuts down, and that's where like night terrors and what's it called, yeah, sleep paralysis, like when you wake
yeah,
up during that, it can kind of give this like you feel like you're hallucinating demons at the foot of your bed and stuff.
yeah,
So because your body is totally shut down in paralysis in REM, and then your brain on the other hand is like highly active, like when you're in stages 1, 2, and 3, when you're like
yeah,
dropping down from like a light sleep to a deeper sleep, you're like, everything is slowing down and shutting down, your body's still awake, but your brain and everything is slowing and slowing. But then when you're in REM, your brain starts to go like a fireworks show of connections, and your eyes are going like this, and that's when you're dreaming, but your body is shut down, and there's still like inconclusive as to why. Like maybe it's so you don't act out your dreams, maybe your brain is pruning memories, maybe it's helping you make new connections of problems that have been in the background of your mind, like with work or relationships or whatever. We still don't know fully, and there's no consensus, but because there's still all that electrical activity in the brain, and it like that's where it becomes this question of like spirituality and what is consciousness and what is soul, where it's like, I don't know, you hook people up to machines, they don't go like dead, like they're still in their bodies, their brain is still firing like crazy. So like I personally don't believe that people like, you know, leave their bodies when they dream.
Okay.
I maintain like a harder approach with that scientifically, and there are different random communities. Like I could send you a website of certain team of scientists. One of my mentors was trying to tell me, and she's like, no, like you do leave your body when you dream. But I still don't buy the evidence of that. I don't see how. Like I don't know.
It's interesting, like I said, again, obviously talking about dreams, but it's like I got diagnosed with epilepsy when I was 37, and jumped out of airplanes, done all sorts of crazy stuff, never had a seizure. But one day I walked out of the shop, and then about, I don't know, 15 minutes later, I'm in a hospital. But I had the nicest dream ever. Even though I was having a seizure, I was having the nicest dream ever.
Oh, wow.
And many years before that, I got kicked in the face by a horse, and I was nearly killed. But again, I had a nice dream. It was really weird. It was like, so as I was knocked out, I then went back in time in my dream, and I was doing exactly what I'd just been doing. And then I got to the point where I got kicked, and then I woke up.
Wow. So like dream, right? Like your dream when you got kicked in the face, you went unconscious. You had a dream where you relived that whole thing.
Yeah, I went back in time, maybe for about 30 minutes in my dream. So I was riding the horse, galloping it around the tracks. I started to walk along the pavement, boom, got kicked, and then I woke up, and I was out for about 30 minutes.
Did the dream feel like the exact same?
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Honestly, it was really nice. Even when I had the seizure, and I was in an ambulance. Obviously, I didn't know I was in an ambulance, but there I was just dreaming, and then I just woke up.
And it felt good.
Yeah, it felt really good. Yeah.
Man, these dreams, like they never stop surprising me. And like the more I study this, the more it's like with anything, like the more you start to feel like you don't know. Because anyways, I think you brought up an interesting point for me now, reflecting on of like you were in vivo, you were phenomenologically in trauma, like you were in an ambulance, you were unconscious, but somehow your dreams, your brain going through the trauma mode, it was still going through with your whole body. So this experience. So I'm like, but there's not, I wonder how to study that. You can't like put people, induce a trauma and then like.
I had a car accident. Again. So like I said, so this is the reason why I was really intrigued to talk to you. And I had a car accident when I was 23, nearly died again. And so it was a cold winter's night. Somehow leaving the car and ending up in this spot where I lost my trainers, but I was dreaming. And again, it wasn't unpleasant. The only thing that woke me up was, in the end, my feet were cold. And then I woke up to the pain.
Interesting.
But while I was out, I was having a nice experience.
Right. Well, dreams, like, are you familiar with DMT?
I was just gonna ask you that question about DMT.
And I think because they, with the melatonin involved with sleeping, and then the DMT that's active during birth, dreams, and death, there's a lot of spirituality in that, and where there's an interesting crossover between like, okay, we can't understand it fully scientifically, but there's obviously this huge mystery and spirituality to it. I think it was a lot to do with DMT as well. And Carl Jung, are you familiar with him?
I've heard of his name,
Yeah, he's like a famous godfather of psychology and psychotherapy and dreams as well. And he said dreams have operate by a compensatory nature. Like they operate with like kind of like gravity. It's like a law of just the nature of dreams is that they're compensatory. So you know, something horrible happens to you in your waking life, and then your dreams will give you this like heaven or this bliss, and
Yeah.
it's helping balance your conscious ego, so
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you don't fall too hard in one direction. So it's like
Interesting.
you had a horrible thing happen to you, and then your
Yeah.
dreams were sort of helping balance, like give you a healing, give you a peace, give you a love, give you a
Yeah.
sense of safety or being okay, so you could you could balance what was happening to you with the trauma, the tragedy better.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like I said, which would make sense, and it's interesting because of what not so long ago I was working with a lady, and she was saying that she struggles to sleep at night, and again from my point of view, when I was coaching that person was again I don't have the information like you've got, but it's obvious to me that like I said again that's going to play out in your next day. That's going to make you feel low in mood. And so I would use just sort of like basic tips in terms of sort of like put a candle at the bed at night times. Don't watch any TV. Allow your body to just settle down because you need that rest. Your body needs it. When you're waking up the next day and you feel like you've pulled like 2 night shifts on the trot, you're not going to be feeling great. Your mood's going to drop down because it wants something. And that's going back to like what you said earlier on, is that it's healthy, isn't it? You need to have that sleep, and you need to have possibly those dreams.
Yes. Yeah, you look at like any medical illness that people are going through, you go see a doctor for whatever it is, no matter how small or big, and a valid, I think it's like 100% of the time, don't quote me on numbers, but they're gonna prescribe to you, suggest to you sleep.
Yeah. Get some
There's
sleep.
a reason for that, and dreams are part of it. They're like this master regulator that we still don't understand fully. With body, mind, soul, whatever level you want to work on, they help regulate and integrate our experiences of that.
But then again, when you think about it as well, though, and I said again, I'm only just putting off loosely here, but it's like even like the ancient, like the Indians, wasn't it? The Indians used to have a big believer of dreams. The Romans, for instance, like I said, people would go to bed and have these dreams that they were going to be like conquering the world, and off they would go. The horses would be gathered, and that's it, off we go, because I've had a dream. I've seen it. I've seen it in my dreams.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I said. So, like you said, I think it's a really, really interesting topic. Really interesting.
And that's kind of where I question, like, science is great and everything. And I just made a recent post, and not trying to stir up any sort of anti-science movement. Trust me, I'm not at all. It's not who I am. But like, science does have its limitations, and dreams, anybody who does dream research and dream work will immediately confront that. And with, oh man, where was I about to go with that? Oh, with the whole Western European, this Enlightenment, like trying to understand it, but they're so big, they're so huge, they're so outside of like the way we've formulated and validated reality and existence, are based off of a certain trajectory of like our Western European culture. And if you look to other times in history before the era of Enlightenment or Christianity's rule, you see all around the world for eons and eons, all these other cultures who understood the power and medicine of dreams. And it's amazing, like the different abilities they have to be in relationship with one another and the world, medicine, by really connecting to their dreams. They don't discount them because there are certain tools, like as in science, don't understand it fully. And there's this, for example, this one woman, super cool. I was up in Canada last summer for a dreamwork retreat, and I was just at the beach, like taking some personal time, and then she was there swimming, and this older woman, she's like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm at a dreamwork retreat." She's like, "Oh, cool, you're into dreams." I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, me too. I just spent last year, and I go regularly." She's like, "For the past like 20 years, I go down to this, I don't know what they call themselves, they're people, tribe maybe, they're a small group, non-developed capitalistically like we are. So they're a smaller culture, a little community. And she said they don't make any political decisions or community decisions without consulting their dreams first. So for example, they were having like an issue with deforestation with these other companies down in Brazil. And so it was infringing upon like their land and their community. And so what they did where they're like, wow, we need to do something. What do we do? All of the leaders went and sent out like a dream survey to all of the people, and they collected all the dreams. And then in the leadership team too, they brought forth all their dreams, and then they looked at all the dreams and then made their decision on what to do. And it's been how they operated for hundreds, maybe thousands of years.
Wow.
And it's so cool. Like, could you imagine?
Yeah. I can imagine that. Yeah.
And they're still like alive today. Like we read about ancient Greece or Egyptians, whatever, who had their other relationships with dreams, but there are still people like the Aboriginals in Australia.
I was gonna say the Aboriginals. Yeah, like I said, everything's to do with But it's again like I can remember again going back a few years ago. I went to I went a bit similar, like to a little retreat. It wasn't dreams, but it was like meditation. So I don't know whether that's the same thing. You know, in terms of when we get into a deep meditation, I probably would say I was definitely dreaming. But I actually, so I went to this group, and it was all about sort of getting in touch with you. And I met me. I don't know. He appeared. He was in a forest, and he was kind of like giving me a bit of a telling off. And then I left this forest, and I arrived on this beach, and I'm in like a Moses basket as a baby. And I don't know what was going on, but obviously I'm in a real deep meditation here. And this big Indian just appeared. He picked me up from this Moses basket. He put me on some sand, and I was next to a beach. And then he started sort of doing all this with his hands, and he was dancing around to me. So yeah, but apparently, I don't know, I got told that's my spirit guide, you know, but whether I was dreaming or whether I was meditating, I don't know, but whoever he was a nice man. He took care of me for about 5 or 10 minutes.
That's cool. Have you stayed with that imagery since, or worked with that?
Yeah. And again, sometimes, about 2 years ago, I used to see him quite a lot when I was dreaming.
Mm-hmm. And what happened now? Like, what's your relationship with
I mean, interesting enough, like I said, I went somewhere. I don't know. Have you heard of Glastonbury here?
Maybe.
Glastonbury Festival? No. Well, over in the UK, it's a real big thing. But it's quite a spiritual place. And I went up there a few weeks ago. And I'm into all this funky stuff. You know, like I said, I think there's lots of things that we don't understand. But I went and had a reading, and this lady turned around and said to me, oh my God, someone's entered the room. And I was like, oh, who's that? She said, it's some really big Indian guy. He's with a wolf. She said, do you know him? And I said, yeah, I know him. So yeah,
wow.
So he's still around.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. And I've had a lot of my own random weird experiences like that too. And dreams are definitely a way that those figures can come. Sorry, are the planes really loud for you?
No, not at all.
And the way that I work with dreams too, why we can, instead of only being able to access dream work and finding things like spirit guides or soul guides or doing deep work, if you're not lucid dreaming, we can still do it when you're awake, is because of like being able to tap into like that hypnagogic active imaginal realm, like you were saying with meditation. That's essentially like when you do a meditation and someone's like, okay, imagine a box, put all your negative thoughts in the box, now bury the box on the beach. Like that whole thing, that is very, very similar to what the dream work looks like too. And there's something to be said with like images being a really primal and indigenous way that our brain like makes intelligence or gets information. Like you can see an image and boom, like so many thoughts and associations are just like right there.
There you go.
Yeah. So when you work with like images like that, when you're awake in that deeper state where you can tune into your body, because an approach I have and that I was mentored at Dr. Steven Eisenstadt is that the body is always dreaming, and the body produces images from its own place. Like, so, you know, when you're doing that work, like in meditation or active imagination or dream work, working with those images, coming into a relationship with them, like integrating them into your awareness in your body, it's all kind of part of the same phenomena.
Yeah. I've had, honestly, I've had some funky dreams over the years. Forgive me for saying, I know we're recording this, but again, it's just about being a bit loose and talking. But I remember I was in a relationship with somebody a few years back, and I just felt quite unsettled. And when I used to go to sleep, I used to see a snake. Yeah, it was a snake just used to appear. And it was just like, and it used to really, really make me a bit twitchy in the mornings.
Mm.
But not so long after, I started to get a bit of a feeling that something wasn't right.
Huh. Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
wasn't right in my relationship, and it
Yeah.
wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't. I was being cheated on.
Oh.
So to me, the snake was representing something. So I don't like snakes.
Yes. Okay. So I have sleeping kittens on my lap, or I'd go grab the book for you. But I have a couple symbol dictionaries that are like encyclopedias of the history of symbols. So it's not a dream dictionary. I don't believe in dream dictionaries. Don't do it. But symbols, on the other hand, like you could look up snake, or you could look up cup, or you could look up something like urine. Crazy.
Okay.
And you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
look through it. It's like this big encyclopedia of like the history and across many cultures, like what that meant to different people at different times. And
Yeah.
snake is the biggest one out of both the books I have.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
other symbols, you'll look it up, it'll be like a paragraph or half a page. Snake goes on for like 50 pages.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
It was a
a
horrible snake.
huge symbol.
Yeah, it was a horrible snake. It was black, and it was just I was like, oh, get off, get off.
Yeah.
And then I'd wake up, and I was unsettled. But again, for me, like listening to you, it's kind of like, and again, I'm sort of relating back to what I've said to people, and that is that why it's so important. You know, sleep is just so important, and because the more and more it went on for me at that particular point in my life, I again felt unsettled in my day. You know, but and all I was hoping for was just to get to sleep and just to have a nice dream. You know, opposed to seeing a snake. It just wasn't a nice feeling at all. Yeah.
Yeah, which is what can turn people off to dream work, because dreams are unfiltered. They're unfiltered truth, and they're things that you might not be aware of, like an illness or an impending
Yeah.
disaster, or like getting cheated on. Like your dreams, your subconscious psyche, like all this stuff is really extrasensory and picking up data that our conscious mind isn't aware of all the time. So people, sometimes I've come across, they don't want to do dreams because they're like, you know what? I have enough stress in my daily life and I got to go to sleep. Now the snake is trying to attack me and it keeps every time I go. It's like, I don't want to dream. And certain people feel that way, but I personally think that's part of the challenge, where it's like, all right, like roll up your sleeves. Like this is truth.
Definitely.
You tap into it and you'll get further ahead in life much quicker because it gives you the truth.
I always find the worst ones though, the worst dreams are the ones where you're having such an amazing time, and it just always happens. Like you woke up, you're like, oh God, like, I just want to get back to sleep. I want to continue that dream. You know, you're trying your hardest to get back to sleep because you so consciously you're aware, and then you do doze off, and then I find you forget what the dream was even about. But you're trying so hard to get back to sleep.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah. I think honestly, I think it's a brilliant topic. So do you mind me asking? Like I said, so again, like I said, obviously for me, like I said, when I'm coaching, like I said, I'm sort of building on sort of like a lot of values and stuff like that in goals. But do you actually embed this then in terms of sort of like your wellness that you're sort of doing in terms of your coaching as well then? So is this a big part of it? Is this a big part of your coaching programs?
Dreamwork, is Dreamwork a big part of my coaching program?
Yeah, like because I see on your website you do quite a lot of different things.
Yeah, I have coaching clients that we just work on what you would expect from like holistic wellness, holistic life coaching, and dreams aren't really important to them. It's not a tool that really
so it's quite a separate thing.
We don't, but if some of my coaching clients bring up dreams, we'll definitely do dreams. And then there are clients I have that are like exclusively dreamwork clients. So
Nice.
I do offer them separately, but they can come into one another. And if I were to see someone just to do exclusive dream work, it's gonna have all these other tools built in for like wellness, holding yourself accountable, making goals, transformation, healing, like all of that built into it too.
Wow. Honestly, it sounds amazing. I think I had to call you up, I think, to get to ask if you do like a dummy session. I'd love to go into it. Yeah.
Anytime, and just let me know. And dreams, I find like one image, like just that one snake. If you're like, all I remember is a black snake, we could spend 2 hours just on that. So in terms of like you and I meeting up later to do dream work, They don't bring me like a bunch of dreams because we go really depthfully and really fully into
Yeah.
the whole thing. Maybe just a dream or two,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we'll see where we can go.
Yeah, yeah, because honestly, like I said, it is interesting. Again, sort of resonating with yourself when you first started this about trauma. And again, like I said, I've had trauma in my early years, and I had to go. And when I mentioned when I first went to an NLP practitioner before I qualified, it wasn't just a case of these two bullies. It was actually a case of actually wanting to go back because my inner child was sort of like screaming around in my head. And I had to go there as well to solve that problem.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he used the same sort of technique and he got rid of that. But again, I found for a period of about 2-3 months, it was like I was just dreaming about that kid again.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, when I went into this state with this person, I went and gave him a hug. And I just said to him, look, it's okay. Like, do you know what? We're both in this together, but it's okay. The adult's okay. You don't need to feel like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like I said, it's all. I think it's all great stuff. I think anything like this that can help people, I just think is just amazing.
Yeah, I think it's cool to hear you share that you had these dreams, you paid attention to them, and then you found NLP, which seemed to be really effective to dealing, like dreams were giving you sort of symptoms psychically or
Yeah,
emotionally about your
yeah,
trauma
yeah,
past, and then you found NLP, a way that NLP worked so deeply and accurately that then your dreams then reflected that work later, like they were gone, So
yeah, yeah.
the thing though, NLP, that's super cool. I'm going to look into that more. And you could do that like similar work, like just by doing dream work too.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Because like I said, because it's interesting. Like, because when we was doing because like I said, we use like a lot of things like about images and kind of like switching things around. Replacing a negative thought for a positive thought. So yeah, it's a bit like Luke Skywalker in the
yeah,
Jedi mind tricks.
yeah,
It's all good stuff. It's all good stuff. But I just, again, for me, I just feel like this words are just as powerful. If you can really kind of like push somebody to their limit here, and you can just keep like being a bit repetitive with that positive affirmations, again, that can have a big change on someone's psyche and someone's outlook as well.
absolutely. You're reminding me of when I was an undergrad and I was studying psychology and doing research with graduate students on their dissertations and stuff. This one girl was working with Dr. Stephen Hayes. He's an American psychologist, and he is a founder of mindfulness-based cognitive therapies.
Yeah, yeah,
So cognitive therapy, pretty much what most coaching is, right? And then he's
yeah,
someone who really took that clinically and incorporated a lot of mindfulness approaches with that.
yeah,
And where he came from with his theories too was very behaviorism. So like
yeah,
classic conditioning, operant
yeah, yeah,
conditioning, Pavlov's dogs. And so when I was studying all this to like catch up to do this dissertation research, there's relational frame theory as a part of that. And I don't know if you're familiar with that. Kind of
I haven't heard of that one. I haven't heard of relationship.
you. Yeah, it's all based on like following the networks of symbols and words,
Yeah,
and how this just opens up this huge like endless tree root system. And what are those called, with like bubbles and then they all connect to one that's just like,
yeah, spider diagram.
yes, like that. And
Yeah,
so we started like tracking those in these like meta ways of just words like you're saying, and
yeah,
even images, and then creativity and response time. and
yeah,
and that kind of, I think, set the foundation for then, like when I graduated, then I was on my own and just really associating, starting getting into dreams. And like I think there's definitely a parallel there, like what you're saying with like
yeah,
words, and then
yeah.
with words and images and getting into deep patterns of the brain, but breaking out of old patterns, finding new patterns. Like, yeah.
Again, like, it's interesting about going back to snakes. And I had a friend of mine. I think he actually started following you because he loves like dreams and stuff like that. And anyway, his name's Dave. So I'm gonna have to give him a shout out. But interestingly enough, for like about 6 months, he kept dreaming about snakes. And in the end, and I said to him, I said, well, you've always been a big fan of like reptiles. I think something's being told to you. And then literally 6 months later, he's now got two pythons. Not my sort of thing. Not my sort of thing. I'd rather have a cat or a dog. but yeah, so like I said, but he's just over the moon, you know, like I said, so for like 6 months, he just kept thinking about these snakes, and he was dreaming about them. And now he has like about 6 or 7. So
Mm-hmm.
again, you know, when you think about that connection with what you're saying, is, you know, like I said, his dreams have shown him something, and now he's just really happy. You know, like now he's got a hobby.
Yeah.
You know, now he's got that attentiveness to have that creativity of doing something other than just going to work. He's got his snakes.
Totally.
And but like going back to like words, I remember when I was dealing with a client, I was working with a client, and they kept saying the word like, you know, failed diet. And I used to just keep saying to her, but stop using that word diet. What do you mean? Stop using the word diet because it's negative. You're already telling your mind that you're on a diet. Start telling yourself you're healthy eating, because your mind can't take all of that in. That one word like diet, it's just going to be, it's powerful. Your brain's going to want to kick onto it and go, oh yeah, I'm on a diet. And you're going to hate being on a diet. But if you tell yourself you're on a healthy eating plan, your brain hasn't got time to function to take all of those words in. And if you keep repeating that and repeating that, you're going to get the motivation to want to keep eating healthy.
Absolutely. And in a different way too, there's other mentors and famous like dream researchers and dream workers like Robert Bosnak, and they are so into etymology of words. Like you'll start reading their essays on dream work and dream analysis, and they'll be like, I had a dream and the word angel came up, and then you're reading like 20 pages of the etymology of the word angel, and like feeling out all of the depth and all of the processing that we go through unconsciously with just one word that we sort of take for granted, like when we're just throwing words around, but they have huge impact and meaning and psychically too. And that's some people like to really hold on to words and work through that etymology lens in dreams. It's not something I'm super good at, but there's absolutely power in that too.
Wow. Honestly, this has been a great chat. Honestly, I could chat for hours.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's anything more that you would want to say or anything, but honestly, like, it's been an absolute privilege, like, being invited to do this.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'll add, there's one thing that was standing out. I wanted to comment on the snake thing.
Yeah.
So my approach, my orientation with dream work is very connected to nature as well. And so two things. Sometimes people will have dreams like, I was yelling at my boss, so obviously I need to wake up and go yell at my boss. And it's like, not necessarily. Like there's a lot of metaphor, symbolism, other processes at play that are more reflective of these other themes in your childhood or you, parts of you, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, always be careful and not take dreams too literally. But at times, taking them literally in certain ways is what the dream is asking of us. So like going back to the relationship with nature, that I hold this eco approach with dreams and consciousness too, is like for my whole life, I just had like constant dreams of like waves in the ocean and the beach and tidal waves. And and then I was always like trying to work with them sort of metaphorically, symbolically, but then finally I got to a place in my life and I now live by the beach fully. And all of these other things just like came into place and just calmed and accepted, and I felt this huge alignment. And it's like, okay, I still dream of the ocean and waves all the time, but there's this other relationship that the dreams are trying to give me more literally, like this is where you are, this is kind of where you belong, while still then working symbolically. So I'm reminded of that with your friend with the snakes. Like he had all the dreams of snakes and came to a point where he's like, all right, I'm literally gonna go and buy snakes. Kind of holding that lightly with an approach too I have of like, okay, maybe not taking them literally, just be mindful not to over literalize them. And also sometimes, especially with earth and animals and things like that, there is quite a literal connection asking to be made.
And again, like I said, this just leads me on to another thing about nature and stuff like that. But it's like, for me, I lost my pet dog about 5 years ago, and I love my little dog. He was my little mate, you know, my best mate. And sometimes I think I had a dream once, and I went to this like big gate, and I opened up this gate in my dream, and then it was like just a huge field, you know, it was just endless. And then there he was, he just came running through this field. It was like a bit like like a cornfield, you know. You could just see him, and his ears were bouncing. And now I find sometimes if I just want to feel a bit calm at night, I will actually program myself before I go to bed, and I'm going to like I'm going to go and visit Alfie tonight.
Mm.
And it may not happen all the time, but sometimes, every now and again, I do remember going to that gate, and there he is again. So I don't know. I don't know. Am I seeing him? I don't know. But I can definitely control it to a point that if I want to go and see him, I'll go and have a dream. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I
We,
don't know.
we
I mean,
keep going. I see it's already been an hour and like easily. So thanks for
yeah.
conversing with me
On,
about dreams and
it's honestly, it's been fantastic. Like I said, I mean, I could keep going, but I'm just mindful of your time and my time.
yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like there is a connection, and I think, like, again, making that point in terms of the people that I kind of work with, it's just interesting to kind of like hear your thoughts and stuff like that in terms of what you're offering. And yeah, I just think it's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would definitely be up for one of these little dream sort of tests and see
Yeah.
what comes out. Yeah.
For sure. And thanks for, priming the NLP. I'm going to go look into that and sort of look more into the parallels of the tools and
Yeah, honestly, like I said, I think for someone like yourself, I think you'd find it really, really interesting, and it is a great tool. I think it's brilliant. I think it can help people, but again, I think it's a bit like sometimes when you're starting out in industries like this as a professional, I think it's kind of like you get your L plates in terms of learning to drive a car, but then when you start driving a car, you just find your own little niche or your own little passion.
Exactly. Totally.
Brilliant. But I don't know if you want to press pause or whatever, but yeah,
Yeah, here we
fantastic.
go.